Welcome, friend. This is our time of encouragement and edification for motherhood and homeschooling. I am your host, Laura Molitier, and this is Cultivating Grace.
Morning time.
Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy.
Hello, I am so happy to be with you all today, and we are going to be learning from Shellee Howard. Her website is College Ready, and she has written a wonderful book called How to Send Your Student to College Without Losing Your Mind or Your Money, which I think as homeschool parents we can all appreciate. We love the idea of our children going into higher education, but we don't like the idea of sending them into adulthood with a huge amount of debt. And so Shellee is going to share with us about the standout strategy to do that. So Shellee, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how we can start this process?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Laura. As Laura mentioned, I am the CEO of College Ready, and it all was started with my firstborn. So, first, I became a mom before I became a CEO, and I like to make sure that families realize it in that order. And it was really something that I had to figure out because my son came home from middle school and he says, Mom, I know exactly what I want to do after high school. And I'm like, I changed my major 5 times, right? And so I just want you to know as you listen, I'm a mom of four. I have 2 boys and 2 girls, and I think that's so important. And my kids were my why. Why has College Ready been around for 18 years? Well, I have 4 kids, so that kind of explains some of it. But I get to do this every single day. I've helped well over 2,500 families, homeschool, private school, public school, boarding school, you name it, we can help any child because what we do is we focus on the student, not on the school. So hopefully, Laura, that gives your families a little taster of what's to come.
Yes, so I think I would like to at least think that we have our priorities in order all the time, but I think sometimes for me as a high school mom, it's really hard sometimes not to let the academics kind of creep up and become a little bit more important because there's this sort of fear of, am I doing enough? Am I going to have them on the right trajectory? And so having veteran moms who have gone before me to share that wisdom so that that doesn't happen is always such a blessing. And so one of the things that you talk about is blending passion projects with academics so that we can get our students on the right path. Can you share a little bit more about what that looks like kind of practically?
Yes, so here's the thing. First step, now, Laura, I'm sure your listeners know, but I don't believe I know the ages of your children. That might help me to answer your question.
We're 15 and 13.
Okay, you're in it. You
Yes.
are in the thick of it. Okay, so pick one of your children, and listeners, please do the same. You need to do one at a time unless they're identical in every way. So pick one child, put their little face in your mind, and I want you to think about this. If you ask them this question, who are you? What would they say? Right? We have to start there because this young teenager, not an adult yet, is trying to adult. They can't wait to adult if they only knew. I really want you to think of that first. The second thing is if you ask that same teenager, what are you passionate about? And some of them, to be honest, would be like, well, the beach and my friends and, traveling and they could ramble off. And then others would be like, I don't know. Like they really don't know. They're not trying to like be absent. They're not trying to make you have a headache. They really don't know what they're passionate about. So When they apply to college or a job for that matter, the person who's interviewing them wants to know who they are and what they're passionate about. So many people think of college admissions as just fitting a square peg in a round hole and just forcing it to fit. College Ready, we do it very uniquely. We start with the child. What is their passions? What do they advocate for? And who are they? Okay. Any questions so far, Lord? You have that child in your mind.
I do.
Okay. Now, next step, if you were going to sit down with them, and I always recommend no distraction. So maybe it's taking them for a yogurt or a burger or whatever, just one-on-one quality time, which is hard. I get it. And you simply say to them, if we could do anything to change something that means something to you, you had all the time, all the money, all the resources, like you take away every objection that they could possibly give you. And then you ask them, what would you like to do? Again, some children are going to be like, oh my gosh, this would be great, la la la. And then others would be like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't understand what you're trying to get at here. So, what a standout strategy or a passion with purpose project is we start with the young teenager. We start working with families in middle school and high school. So truly 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. They're my people. And when I get to sit with them and I say, I only want what you want. So whatever that is, let's go get it together. So if you're a parent and you're giving advice, they hear you as a parent. The one that says clean your room, do your chores, do your homework, right? I have four, remember? So they hear that. Now you need to take yourself out of that parenting role and be one of mentor, one of I'm only here for your best interest and I have no opinion. And that's the hardest one to break out of, right? Because they already know you have an opinion. Yes. So now you want to be thoughtful and say, I will not shake my head, roll my eyes, cross my arms. I promise I really want what you want. And if that doesn't work, then you have to have an aunt, an uncle, a grandparent, or pay a professional. That's your only options. My first two kids, they absolutely were in the game plan. My second two were like, no, I think there's something more to this you're trying to get out of me. So every child's going to be different. Now, the next thing you're going to want to do is you want to lean into, you know them and you have to be careful because you know them. So kind of wipe your mind just clean from all that you know to be true and say, can you tell me 10 things you are truly passionate about? And they'll probably come up with three pretty easy. That's not too hard. Wow, seven, eight, nine, it's getting really rough. And why is this important? Because we want our children to do something meaningful. You know, everybody is put on this earth for a purpose. And if you get to step into that purpose and be passionate about it, life is so fun and so easy. So, helping teenagers learn at a very young age, you can do what you love, you can make money at it, and you can impact the world all in one opportunity. That's what a Passion with Purpose project really stands for.
That's awesome. Yes. So you take this information that you have now, and this is how you sort of plot their path into college.
So the next step is, say they are really passionate about their sport. I will ask, that's amazing. Do you want to play your sport as a college student or a professional? And most of them by this time are pretty realistic. I'm too small for, blah, blah, blah. That they pretty much have figured it out at this point that they're probably not going to play in their future. but maybe it is a student who's an artist. And they're like, yes, I really would love to be an artist. I'm very talented. I've won awards. I'm great at it. And then the next thing we get to do is we talk about what kind of lifestyle that they want. We like to let them know before they make a decision, do they want to live the life of an artist? Do they want to drive a new car? How often do they want that new car? Do they ever want to move out of their parents' home? Because here's the thing, they can be passionate about something, but may not understand financial literacy. When I talk to students, I get so excited about their passions. I had a student who wants to be a botanist. And after I asked her, I said, that is so cool because I have a brown thumb. Like, I am so envious. I said, what about that is your passion? She goes, well, I believe our environment is in dire need. And I'm like, well, whoa, I didn't see that coming. She says, yes, so if I could plant lots of trees, I could save our environment. And I'm thinking, so really, she doesn't like planting, she wants to save our environment. So do you see how listening and not having judgment, but being curious for your child is so important in this process?
Yes, yes, and helping them sort of flesh out the sort of lifestyle they want. It's also important.
Right.
It's one of my favorite uh, my favorite trajectories of my own. I got a scholarship to Johnson and Wales because I loved cooking, and that's where I thought I wanted to go. And then I decided just before it was time to make the final decision and finalize the scholarships and all that, I'm like, you know what? I don't really think that I want to cook for a living because it's always been such a passion of mine. And then God, in his sense of humor, gave me two boys, and I have cooked for a living for the last 15 years. But that whole I also worked in a restaurant in high school, and that whole environment that was just not conducive to this sort of lifestyle that I wanted long term. Like very few people actually make good income in the restaurant industry, especially if they own their own place, and the hours are just horrible. So having somebody that can help, especially if your kids are at the age where maybe they take it better from somebody else instead of their parents, that it's really good for them to have somebody that can guide them that way. That's fantastic.
For sure. Yeah. We're so quick as adults to ask a teenager, what do you want to do? As if they already know,
Right.
right? And if they shrug or kind of cower, now they feel bad that they don't know what they want to do. And that's almost putting a negativity before they even start to explore. So we help them self-explore first, then we explore the career, then we reverse engineer it, then we explore the major, then we explore the school because not every college has every major.
Right.
So if you start with the name of a school, like my second born did, University of Alabama, I'm like, why do you want to go to Alabama? And she goes, Mom, roll tide. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, yeah, the football team. I said, are you going to play football? And she's like, no, that's not it at all. And that's when I realized I wasn't listening to her. I was judging her decision. And it wasn't until I started asking questions, what about Alabama do you think is a fit? And she said, it's the number one nursing school of the schools that I'm looking at. And I'm like, so really you want to be a nurse? But she never shared that she wanted to be a nurse. So it's really interesting, parents, when we're so close to them and we kind of feel like we know them better than they know themselves. But as they're adulting or trying to adult, they're spending more and more time trying to pull away from us to get prepared for what that launch looks like. And so they may not share something that we may have negative judgment about, like, well, I'm not paying for you to be an art major, or I'm not going to send you to NYU to be an actress. I mean, these are just real things that I hear all the time,
Right.
right? And so I approach it very differently. And here's some techniques you can use. And that is, that sounds so exciting. And pause. Whoa, the long, long, very pause. What are they going to tell you about that? You've just leaned in that you do think it's exciting. You don't think it might be the best fit for your child. So you're not lying, you're not being true, unless you don't think that would be exciting, then don't say it.
Right?
But something that values their feeling or validates, that's great, you're excited. It's as simple as the listening, the repeating, validating what they're saying, and then hearing what comes next. And you all thought you were tuning into how you're going to get your kid into college. We do that as well. But step one, your child on their college application is going to have between 5 and 18 essays per school.
Wow.
Process that for a moment, parents. It's changed a little bit. So if they just say they had the minimum of 5, that's 5 different things they have to tell colleges about themselves. So if you haven't done this work and they haven't done this work and you're not having using a professional to do this work, they're going to look at a screen that screams back to them, you don't belong here.
Right.
But they do. Any child, there is a college for every child if that's what they want, or a trade school, like a culinary school or a fashion school or a motor technology school, whatever that is. But they're still going to want to know, if I invite you here, will you be successful? How will they know if your child cannot tell them who they are?
Right. So we're
Very
really giving them
interesting.
tools by having these conversations so that they are able to then answer these big questions. And I mean, even as adults, sometimes I feel like we struggle a little bit with these sort of, I guess, resume questions is really what it is. Uh,
Yeah.
and so once we go through all this and we help our children, what is our next step?
So once your child, so they all mature at a different timeline. So before I talk next steps, let's just kind of pinpoint what that looks like. I have several students in my program in 7th grade that are more emotionally mature than my 12th graders. I'm not kidding you. They're a second or third or fourth child, and they just grew up so much faster. Or they're a firstborn or an only child that is just super, super focused. So I just want you to think that's why we're focusing on one child at the moment. You know that child. The first thing you want to do is you help them to figure out their why. Because if you know your teenager, when they want to do it, it is so easy. If they don't want to do it, it is so not easy. So when they figure out why they want to go to this next thing, now it's time. When we hit that point, we start to help them figure out they need a GPA. Okay, somebody's going to have a higher GPA or a lower GPA, a higher test score or a lower test score. Those are just the 2 things that we know they have to bring
Right.
if they want to go anywhere after high school. Even if you want to start a job, they are going to ask you, what was your high school GPA? They need to know a little bit about you. The next thing is, what have you done for somebody else that did not benefit yourself? Are you self-absorbed?
Right.
This is a reality. These kids are growing up in a generation of all about me instead of all about we. And as employers, right? I am a CEO, I am an employer. I am looking at, are they coachable? Can they be part of a team? Can they collaborate? Or can they just work in a silo? If so, they need to work in a lab, or they need to be a CPA who's just working on a tax form. You know what I mean? Like, be very careful of just letting your child stay in this bubble.
Right.
So as soon as we get to what have they done? Now, this is community service, passion with a purpose, leadership, you lead others to create something. Extracurriculars, you collaborated with a team or a group of people who play instruments. What does that look like or perform? So everybody wants to like make it so hard, and I like to make this so easy. We're preparing our child to adult. That's what we're doing. That's it. And everybody's like, are you kidding me? No, that's truly it. Because remember, college is a stepping stone. It's not the end game. But they need to get to that level of maturity that they can be ready for the career. They can be ready for the job, starting their own business, whatever that may look like. So, what you need to do is you need to do 7 things. Prepare them academically for their GPA, prepare them to take the test. It is not optional. For all of you people who think it's optional, don't think it's optional, because if my student puts they worked really hard to get a 36 on their essay, can you unsee that? It's no longer optional.
Right.
So be very careful, because a teenager says, but it says optional. They're very literal,
Yes, yes, they are.
right? Or if it says, this question is optional on the application, it is not optional. It is the lazy students who don't complete it who get put in the trash. But they thought, but you said it was optional. So here's an opportunity where you get to either lean in as a parent if they allow it. Some of them get really protective, like, no, this is my thing. I'm going to do it on my own. You can't look at it. That's terrifying, just so you all know.
Right.
And then you want to be thinking about what they need to prove, right? So here's the situation: GPA, test score, community service hours, leadership, extracurriculars, letters of recommendation, and their essay. That's what they need to do to get into college.
That's awesome. So that simplifies it so much. That's an actual attainable list of things that I think every
Good,
parent can sit down and go through.
good, good, good.
Well, thank you so much for sharing with us today. And will you tell all of our friends where they can find your wonderful services online so that if they don't want to do it themselves, they can do it with you?
Absolutely. I'm happy to help. So I have free resources, I have uh, hourly resources. It's really whatever it is that you need. I have a homeschool specialist in case you're struggling to really get their transcript together. That is an area that most homeschool parents kind of pull out their hair a little bit. So all you have to do is go for your listeners. They are going to I'm gifting them 30 minutes to get a college ready checklist. What have they done well? What do they need to fix? To do that, go to collegereadyplan.info, collegereadyplan.info. Sign up for 30 minutes. You'll get a checklist so you can leave with, I now know what we need to focus on. Remember, simplification equals sanity. Having a plan is so you won't fail. So it's really important for those of you who are like, Shellee, I've got this. I'm super confident. I would love you to check out empowereducation.world. It is a nonprofit my college ready students have started. It's an international global project that is free for anybody who wants to join, where we have built 2 schools in Uganda to educate over 850 children. Do you see the difference between community service and passion with a project?
Yes.
And you are welcome to have your teenagers sign up and show up and get inspired and join this group. So hopefully that gives you some opportunities wherever you're at.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. And I love that simplification equals sanity. And we all need more of that in our lives, don't we?
Absolutely.
Thank you so
Absolutely.
much, Shellee, for joining us today. And I will make sure all of those links are posted in our show notes. And we will see you next time.
Thank you so much, Laura.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for joining us today on Cultivating Grace. And if you have a moment today, we'd love it if you'd leave us a rating on your favorite podcast listening service so that they know we aren't talking to ourselves out here. Have a great day, and we'll see you soon.